So let's look at the life cycle. Okay, the life cycle. So let me remind you of the metamorphosis of insects. We are reminded that there are basically two types of development of insects, or metamorphosis, how they transform as it hatches from the egg to adulthood. So we have the complete, or this is called hollow metabolism. Okay, so this is just a recap of what we have learned before in PLP 3104, I suppose. And then we have the incomplete metamorphosis, and this is called Pauro metabolism. Now, one might be confused with the term here because I think you are more familiar with hemimetabolism, right? Hemimetabolism. Now, hemimetabolism refer to insects that develop in the aquatic environment, in water. Whereas paurometabolism refers to terrestrial development, development on the ground. Okay, so when I say aquatic, it means fresh water. Insects, no insects lives in the sea or in the marine environment because of the balance of the ions, ionic balance. If insects do live in the marine environment, it will become plasmolysed, meaning to say that water will be drawn out as a result of the higher concentration of salt or ionic concentration in the marine environment. So they cannot live in a marine environment. So that essentially there is no insects that is capable to live in the sea. Although they can be found in almost every environment, including in the hot water spring. Some insects can endure high temperature because they have a thick cuticle, thick waxy cuticle that allows it to withstand very high temperature. So basically, this is the two different types of metamorphosis, the complete and incomplete metamorphosis. Now, termites comes under which category of development? Anyone?
Complete.
Complete or incomplete?
Complete.
Okay. Why do you say so? Why do you consider termite having a complete metamorphosis?
Ada egg, larvae, nymph dengan adult.
Complete metamorphosis, the basic difference between complete and incomplete metamorphosis. In complete metamorphosis, the adult looks very different than the offspring, right? Is that true? So we have larvae, for instance, in butterfly, and then it transforms or metamorphose into pupa, and then the adult insect or the adult butterfly will emerge from the pupa, right? So that is complete metamorphosis. Now, incomplete metamorphosis is like the cockroaches, right? The young insects and the adult are similar, or rather similar in appearance, except for the presence of wings in the adult insect, right? So, but, okay, so which one do you think termites comply to, the butterfly or the cockroach? Any response? Now consider termites and cockroach belongs to the same order, right? Just to recap, which is Blattaria or Blattoidea. So since the cockroach undergoes incomplete metamorphosis, so does the termite. Yeah. So the development of termites is actually incomplete, incomplete metamorphosis. Yeah. Okay, let me explain. The term that we use is simple metamorphosis. Okay. So we don't actually refer the development of termites as incomplete metamorphosis. Rather, we identify it as simple metamorphosis. Simple in term, but in reality, it is very complex. Okay, simple meaning to say that it does not undergo the complete change like holometabolous insects, like for instance, Lepidoptera, the moth and the butterflies, and then Coleoptera, the beetles, so on, so forth. But it is still simple in name, but complex in nature, but never complete. It is still incomplete. I hope I do not confuse you. Okay, let's look at the life cycle in a diagrammatic form. So this is the egg. So when it hatches, it becomes larva. Okay, and this larva then transform into nymph. This is rather peculiar, because larva is actually associated with holometabolous insects, but nymph is associated with paurometabolous, incomplete metamorphosed insects. But rather you have both, larva develop into nymph, serially. So when the egg hatches, it turns into a larva, and then it transforms into a nymph, and then the nymph undergoes a very complex process, whereby it can become a worker. Okay, worker, and then it can become a soldier, and it can become an elite. Okay, what is elite? Elite is kalkatu. And the word elites mean wing. Wing, bersayap. So these are the three castes. We call it the casta, caste. Okay. Now, let's deal with the worker and the soldier later on. What happened to the wing elite? It then becomes de-elite. So what is de-elite? De-elite, it shed off its wings. Dia tanggalkan sayap dia. And then it can become the queen if it is a female. And if it is a male, it becomes a drone. It's not the flying object that we are familiar with. The name drone actually refers to a male termite, the male reproductive termite, or rather the king. But we don't refer to it as a king. We call it the drone. And out of the thousands of elite termites or kalkatu that swarm, so that's why it's called swarmers. This stage is called swarmers because it swarms. Dia berterbangan. And the flight is called nuptial flight. Nuptial. Nuptial. Nuptial flight. Nuptial flight means that it flies to seek mate. In seeking mate, mencari pasangan. Okay, when it flies, as we are familiar with, especially during the rainy season, when we turn on the light, especially at night, then you will see the swarm of elite or kelkatu, and they will start falling. Yeah, as they find their mate, bila dijumpa pasangan dia, will start falling to the floor, and they will start looking for crevices, rekahan-rekahan, and they move into that crevice and start building a colony ataupun membentuk koloni ataupun satu kumpulan termite. The queen will lay eggs as it mated with the drone, and you will have a colony. Now out of the thousands of termites in the swarming community, maybe just a few pair will survive, and the rest will die, due to natural causes, desiccation, kering, ataupun it becomes it predated upon by ants, by what have you, that pick up the pollen elites. Okay, now let's go back to the workers and the soldiers. Now, these workers, soldiers, and even elite, in some species they can switch. They can switch caste. In other words, that a worker can actually transform into a pre-soldier. Okay. And then this pre-soldier will become a soldier. So it is very flexible. Okay. And the worker can actually also transform into a secondary elite. Okay. In other words, reserve. So you have the primary elite, and in some situation, they can actually produce secondary elite from the workers. You may wonder how would this be necessary? Okay, let's look at what happened in not so typical situation. Okay, now the ratio, this is the typical ratio. Of a termite colony. Yeah. So a colony may range from anywhere from 10,000 to millions, of termites. So that makes a colony. Yeah, it can be as small in size as 10,000 individuals, or as large as millions, several millions, covering many acres. For instance, if you have a plantation, oil palm plantation or rubber plantation, then normally you will have colonies that comes in a very large size, constituting millions of individual termites. Okay. Now, this colony is not random. Random in the sense that they have workers and soldiers of unequal numbers, but they are actually they program the colony so that the ratio of soldier to worker is 1 to 10, or at the most 1 to 6. So this is 10%, and this is about 15%. So in a colony, you have approximately 10% soldiers and 90% workers. So if you have 10,000 in a colony, then you have about 1,000 soldiers, and the rest 9,000 are workers. And this make economic sense, and this is actually a very good a very good guide. Ini satu panduan yang berguna in nation building, for instance. When you want to come up with a budget, budget for defense must not be more than 10%. It should be even less. And then the bulk of the budget should go to education, should go to social development, it should go to welfare, it should go to investment, so on and so forth. But if a country spends too much on defense, let's say 50% on defense, that means the nation is preparing for war. And if every nation is doing the same, then war is inevitable. Peperangan memang tak boleh dielakkan. So let's learn from the termite. They invest just enough for defense by having 10% of the population of the colony consisting of soldiers, and the rest are workers, which can be equated to developing the nation. Okay, so that's so remember, the ratio of soldiers to workers are fixed. So how do they keep it that way? For instance, let's say they came under attack. Termites versus ants. They are not in good terms. I recommend you to watch an animation movie. It's called Ants, A-N-T-Z. Maybe some of you have already watched. It's an animation movie. It told of a story of an ant, an individual ant. And in one of the scene, it shows they were attacked by termites. So there was a war going on, and there were so many casualties, banyak kecederaan dan kematian. So the termites in that situation, in a situation of conflict, will decrease in number. So now the ratio is no longer 1 to 10, it's probably 1 to 30. So it led to a situation whereby the defense mechanism of the colony is very much deficient. So it needs to be restored. It needs to be restored to 1:10. The ratio of 1 soldier to 10 workers. They do this by the role of the queen. The role of the queen. Okay, workers feed the queen. They feed the queen, and then in the process, hormones are distributed. Okay, let us show this in a form of a diagram. Okay, so you have the queen. This is the queen, and this is the worker. Okay, that feeds the queen. So in the process, the queen will transfer the hormones to the worker, and also it regurgitates. This is regurgitates regurgitate ni macam kita keluarkan balik. It's like throwing up. But it's not actually throwing up. It just coughing ataupun mengeluarkan makanan yang sudah dikunyah bercampur dengan hormon, mixed with hormones. And they also feed the workers. So in this situation, the worker feeds the queen, but in this situation, it also feed the workers through anal deposition, daripada dubur dia. Okay. While this is called, this process is called, the whole process is called trophallaxis. Okay. Trophallaxis, whereby food is exchanged from mouth to mouth feeding and from anal to mouth. So the process is called trophallaxis. This is called proctodium, by the way. Proctodium, mouth to mouth. This is mouth to mouth. Mouth to mouth. And this is called stomodium. This is anus to mouth. So in this process, trophallaxis, hormone is being transferred. Hormone is being transferred, and the queen, it has the ability to detect the instability of the colony. So when the ratio of soldiers to workers decline to less than 1:10, let's say for instance just now it diminishes, dia semakin berkurang from 1:20 or 1:30. So the queen can actually detect the instability of the colony and starts to produce hormone, so that soldiers will transform into workers will transform into soldiers. And so the ratio is restored, akan dikembalikan pada nisbah yang stabil ataupun yang sepatutnya. Okay. Okay, up to now, class, do you have any question before we go on? So let us make a brief review. Number one, we talked about the insect order. Termites belong to Blattaria or Blattoidea, which is in the same category as the cockroaches. It's no longer considered as Isoptera. So if you read up more recent literature, you will find out that termites comes under or referred to come under the order Blattaria or Blattoidea, no longer Isoptera. That's number one. Number two, we stress the role of termites as decomposers. So in such a way that termites are more beneficial than they are pests. Although the economic importance of termites as pests could not be diminished. It has a very important economic. It has a very high economic importance in the hierarchy of pest management. So it is a serious pest when it comes to the structural build up or buildings. Okay, that's number 2. Number 3, we talk about the development of termites. So it comes under the category of simple metamorphosis. Simple in name, but rather complex in nature. Yeah. So it can develop into different castes, worker, soldier, elite, and then the workers can actually change if the situation deemed so. So the workers can change into a pre-soldier and later on soldier, and can also become a secondary elite in a situation whereby the queen is weakened, or when the queen dies, so it needs a replacement. So the secondary elite will take over and become the queen for the colony. And of course, we also talk about the elite, the swarmers, when they start looking for a mate, and then the male will become the drone and the female will become the queen, and they will start a colony. And we also talk about the mechanism whereby one caste, especially worker, can actually transform into a soldier when a situation develop. If the colony becomes unstable as a result of attack or conflict situation, especially with ants. So those are the key points that we have discussed so far. Any question before we move on?
No.
Sorry, yes? Everything is clear,
Clear.
Okay, let's look at the diet. The diet of termite. Of course, they feed on wood material. Okay, the ability that is unique to termite. They are the only insects that can actually digest wood. They also feed to a lesser extent on the organic matter. This includes fungi, which is actually essential, sangat penting. They also feed on animal dung, najis haiwan, and various decomposed material. This is basically the diet of termites. Okay. What are they equipped with to be able to do so? They have the enzyme cellulase. Okay, they have the enzyme cellulase, which is actually excreted, excreted by symbionts. Now, what is symbionts? Now, in basic biology, we learn of symbiotic association, whereby two organisms, just to remind the symbiotic relationship, which involve two different organisms. Okay. Now, two organisms that live together, and both of them benefit by such association. So in this case, we have the termites and the protozoa. That lives in the gut, dalam intestine dia. Lives in the gut, and it produces cellulase so that termites can digest wood. So the protozoa benefited by having a habitat or a living space. It lives in the gut of the termites. And the termites benefited from the cellulase excreted by the protozoa so that it can feed on the wood. And that's how termites is able to digest wood. It's because of association between the termites and the protozoa. Okay. And there are bacteria as well. In the gut. And it produces vitamin C, vitamin B. Which is an essential in the diet of termites. Okay. So there are various organisms, different kinds of organisms that live in the gut of the termites. Okay, let's say this is the intestine, which is convoluted. Okay, so you have, because this is the head and this is the thorax. Then you have the abdomen and you have the intestine, convoluted. Convoluted ni maksudnya macam dia macam ni lah, ya. Convolution. It's not a straight line as opposed to a straight line. This is a straight line. Yeah. But it's convoluted. The word is convoluted. So you have different environment along the way. Yeah. You have different environment. What I mean with environment is pH. They have different pH along the way. Maybe this one is a little bit acidic, 5.5. This one is a little bit higher, 5.7. This one may be alkaline, 7.2. Yeah, this one is 7.5. This is just an example. So pH, the neutral pH is 7, right? So you have various pH environment, and this pH environment allows different microorganisms, yeah, to be housed inside the gut of the termite. So you have various microorganisms that help in providing a complete diet for the termites. Okay. Now, let's look at the digestive process. Okay, now we have the aerobic and we have the anaerobic respiration. We can call from basic biology. Eh? What is aerobic? And what is anaerobic? Can anyone recall? aerobic respiration,
With oxygen.
yeah, it needs oxygen. This one, anaerobic,
Without oxygen.
without oxygen, in the absence of oxygen. Now, can we undergo an aerobic metabolism? Can we as a human being undergo an aerobic metabolism? Okay, what is metabolism? This is C6H12O6 converted into energy, yeah? Glucose. The simple form of carbohydrate is glucose. Okay, this is glucose, sorry. So it undergoes oxidation, or the biological term is metabolism. So now the byproduct is CO2 plus water plus what? ATP, energy, right? So this is the typical metabolic process that occurs in every organism. But in a certain situation, an aerobic metabolism can also takes place. Can anyone indicate that situation?
During exercise.
During exercising, right? Okay. It causes muscle cramp in the absence of oxygen, because our body could not deliver oxygen enough. Yeah? Whereas the muscles require oxygen for the aerobic respiration, the complete metabolism. But in a situation when insufficient oxygen, in a situation whereby oxygen is insufficient, so anaerobic metabolism will take place, and instead of carbon dioxide, it produces what? Lactic acid. And that causes muscle cramp. Kita panggil apa? Kita panggil apa? Simpul biawak. Have you heard of this simpul biawak? Has any one of you experienced muscle cramp?
Yes.
Yeah.
That shows that you lack oxygen, and then an aerobic metabolism took over, and you start to produce lactic acid, and that causes the cramp. Yeah, that causes the cramp. But in termites, anaerobic metabolism and aerobic metabolism, both of them happen simultaneously. So you have both aerobic and anaerobic. And these are typical metabolism for the termites. In our case, in other organisms, aerobic metabolism is the typical one, but in termites, both aerobic and anaerobic happen side by side. Yeah? So that, and this is an advantage. Advantage in the sense that we can detect the presence of termites. Okay. Due to this anaerobic metabolism, we can actually detect the presence of termites in any premises by the presence of the gas methane. Okay. Okay, they do not produce lactic acids in our case, but termites do produce methane gas, yeah, when anaerobic metabolism takes place. So there is you have a gadget or device that you can use to detect methane detection. Now, if methane is detected in the premise or in your house, then that is a sure indication that your house has been infested with termite. Yeah, okay. That is the unique digestive process in termites. They can digest wood because of the symbiotic relationship with protozoa, and then they undergo anaerobic respiration. Yeah. Apart from aerobic respiration, producing carbon dioxide, and at the same time, they also produce methane as a byproduct due to the anaerobic respiration. And the presence of methane is a sure indication of the presence of termite in the house. Okay, so okay, are there any question so far? Okay, if there is no question, let's move on to the classification. There are a number of families that we would like to consider in this course. Okay, number one is called the dry termite, dry wood termites. Okay, number two, this is called the subterranean termites. Okay. And number three, the harmless termites. Okay, this micro Termitidae. Okay, let us consider this one. The harmless termite. Now, if you've seen a moon, M-O-U-D and M-O-U-N-D, a termite moon. Apa dia termite moon ni? Busut ni. Busut anai-anai. Normally we'll find this a lot in the village, kampung, ladang getah, and any natural environment. So if you find such a termite moon, then please note that these termites are harmless. Okay, so you can just leave them alone. They do not cause any harm. Even if there is a house next to it, it does not cause any harm because it does not attack the wooden structure of the house. They feed on the decomposing organic matter and also wood in the ground. Okay, so please leave them alone. Now let us consider the first two. The subterranean termite is the most important. There is one species called Coptertermus cervicnatus. Okay, now it's a very small termite. The soldiers are small, although it is prevalent due to its obvious mandible. In any termites, any termite species, the workers and the soldiers can be easily distinguished. Soldiers are attributed by the appearance of a huge mandible. Okay, so they have a huge mandible. This is basically a soldier. And then the workers, it is something like this, smaller. They don't have that huge mandible. Okay, so they use this mandible for a soldier. They use this mandible for defense. For defense. And whenever you hear a clicking sound, you knock at the panel of your house. Let's say the panel that form the frame of the door. If it is infested with termite, you knock on that panel and you will hear the soldiers will start clicking because they consider that as a threat, and they will start clicking its mandible as a warning to an would-be enemy. Okay, now that is the role of the soldier, but they do not have the ability to find food. Only the workers will look for food and bring the food to the queen, and then the queen will feed every individual in the colony. The soldiers, the workers, even the drone is being fed by the queen. Okay. Now, Coptotemus cervicnatus is unique in the sense that they can feed, they can consume a standing tree. So what is a standing tree? A standing tree is a living tree, pokok yang hidup. So if you see a tree still standing, a living tree, doesn't mean that the tree is solid. It could have been hollowed, mungkin dia sudah berlubang, because it's being fed by, consumed by termites within. So ada anak-anak yang memakan bahagian dalam pokok tadi. So it's a hollow tree, and a strong wind, a relatively stronger wind than usual, can usually lead to the tree uprooted or falling. So it is, be careful if you want to park your car under a tree because you think it's shady, but the tree is actually so vulnerable and can fall over because it is already being hollowed ataupun lompong, sudah dimakan oleh anak-anak. Only Coptotemus cervicnatus can do this. Other termites, they only feed on a fallen log or trees or dead trees, and also wood that is used to make buildings and infrastructure. So please remember this, only Coptotemus cervicnatus can live on a standing tree. Boleh makan pokok yang masih hidup dan masih berdiri. Okay. Now, to identify this particular species of termite, you just held out your finger and let them bite. And it will start to ooze white, a thick white liquid. Dia mengeluarkan cecair pekat yang berwarna putih. You let it bite your finger. It doesn't hurt. It doesn't hurt macam kena gigit semut saja. But it will start to ooze out a thick white liquid, and that is an indication of Coptotemus cervicnatus. Now, this is one particular subterranean termites. Termites that live underground but can feed on wooden structure. In other words, these are the termite that is the most troublesome, that need to be managed and also controlled in the termite termite management industry. Yeah, okay. So the next one is the drywood termite. Termitidae. The family is Termitidae. Now this is mostly found in temperate areas, kawasan yang beriklim sederhana. Okay, and it is diagnosed, dikesan by the presence of mud trails, laluan berlumpur. So you will see something like this that climbs up the wall. Let's say this is the pillar of a house, and then you have the mud trail here. So it is the gallery, laluan for the termites to move up to the building, and can be physically noticed. And we don't have that prominent instance of termite, of drywood termite in this part of the world, in the tropical areas, but you do see them frequently in temperate areas. Okay, so those are the three types of termites. There are many more actually, but I just want to highlight the three most prominent termites. Number one is the drywood termite. Number two, the subterranean termite. And number three is the Termitidae. That is harmless termites. They do not cause, it is not considered as a threat in the termite management industry. Okay, so those are the three different types of termites. Okay, is there any question on this so far?
Doktor,
Yeah.
untuk yang capital termites tu, usually dia punya warna dia warna apa?
Again, termite yang macam mana?
Yang subterranean termite.
Subterranean. Okay, subterranean termite. Coptotermus cervignatus. Okay, that one is white in color. White, a little bit yellowish. Yeah. But mostly white lah. The mandible, the mouth parts, that one looks a little yellowish, but the rest of the body is white. Okay. Did I answer your question?
Yes, Doctor.
Okay, now let's look at a termite moon. Yeah? This is a typical termite moon. Busut anak-anak. Yeah? So it has the this is called the galleries. That is connected within the complex of the moon, and there is somewhere deep inside. This is called the Queen Gallery. Okay, the Queen Gallery. This is where the queen resides, and it remains in the gallery, in its gallery, for as long as it lives. Typically, a queen will live up to 10 years or more. Some may live up to 2 decades, 20 years, 25 years. Okay, so it can live for so long, and it stays within this queen gallery. Kita panggil apa? And it is very hard. It is very hard, and there are holes in throughout for entrance, for the entrance of workers, okay, and soldiers and so on and so forth. Yeah. This is where trophallaxis take place. Okay. And then you have this gallery, and throughout the gallery you have this, it's called the fungal garden. Taman Kulat. This is where the termite cultivates fungus. It's called fungal garden, ataupun they propagate fungal spora. And if you look at the PowerPoint that I put up in the Putra Blast system, okay, there is a slide on the fungal garden. It is made of wood, decomposed wood, and soil, tanah liat, mix it with their saliva, okay, and it becomes a very beautiful structure, convoluted. It's like a brain. Looks like a brain. Okay, how does a brain looks like? Yeah. Something like this. Okay. It's convoluted. Again, it's convoluted because it wants to increase the area for fungal propagation. Dia nak apa ni? Dia nak they need a lot of space for the fungus to propagate. Yeah. So you can see the white spores. And they propagate these fungal spores to feed themselves. And this is where the vitamin B comes from. Remember just now when we cover the part on the termite guts, apa ni, perut anai-anai, and there are various pH environment. So some along the gut there are stretch whereby certain bacteria can grow well because of the suitable pH, and by feeding on this fungus, the bacteria will metabolize it to provide vitamin B for the termites. Okay. Now, let's look back at the moon. Yeah. This gallery is actually, they have a constant temperature and humidity. And it is very comfortable for the termites. Let's say it houses maybe 100,000 termites here, and it is very comfortable in terms of temperature and humidity. If there is a breach, for instance, there is a breach somewhere, yeah, the gallery is exposed. Yeah, let's say this one is breach, pecah. Yeah? So the gallery is exposed here. So that led to a change in temperature and also humidity, which leads the workers to hurry and start to man this place. Yeah. So it is called homeostasis. Sorry for this, for the spelling. Homeostasis. Homeostasis. It means the temperature and the humidity of the environment is constant. Any small changes will be corrected. Whether there is an increase or decrease in temperature, that would be almost immediately corrected, so that it will return back to the most suitable temperature and humidity for the environment. So it is a very sustainable place, very suitable place to stay, and sustainable, suitable, yeah, and comfortable for the colony to thrive. And this colony is actually connected underground with other colonies, yeah? And that covers sometimes hundreds of square kilometers, yeah, within an area. So that is the living quarter of the termite, and it shows how stable, how sustainable the gallery for the whole colony. Do you have any question? Okay, in the lab tomorrow, we will discuss, or we will address the issue of management. This is for tomorrow lab. Tomorrow, management. We will talk about management of termites. Okay, just as an introduction, yeah. So we have pre-construction, and we have post-construction. Management strategies. So basically, there are, when it comes to build up areas, when it comes to buildings, basically we have two different management strategies. Number one is called pre-construction, and then post-construction. When it comes to post-construction, there are several methods. We have the physical method, we have the chemical method, we have the biological method, cold freezing method, electrical method. We will discuss that in the lab tomorrow. So before we leave for today, you are reminded again to indicate your presence in the chat forum. If there is any other question before we call it a day, please share with us. Do you have any question? Before I let you go, I suppose there is no question, yeah, from the class. Okay, kalau tidak ada soalan ataupun komen, then till we meet again tomorrow, as usual, at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Okay?
Okay, Doctor.
Okay. Has everyone indicated their attendance? Okay, kalau tak ada, I'll leave you at that. And if you have questions later on, you can post it on the Putra Blast, or even on our WhatsApp pun boleh. Okay, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh dan terima kasih.
Waalaikumsalam. Terima kasih doktor.
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 Baik.